Hey guys, how you going? So today I'm going to be going through a workflow that I have built on from Nate Herc. So I'll give him a shout out in the comments below and put a link to his school community where I initially got the idea from to build on. So this is, I guess, one of your classic personal, assistants, looking at managing emails, calendar, contacts, but I've expanded on what he's put together to include a few other features. So what we'll do is we'll run through that today and basically run through how you guys can put it together. I will have all the templates that you guys can download yourself from my GitHub, which again I'll include in the link. And I think the really cool thing about this is taking it to sort of the next level and going, cool, we see a lot of agents out there or workflows out there that utilize inputs from Telegram, obviously your classic sort of either text or voice, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. But when I really looked at this, I was like, what is the actual next step in terms of creating convenience, in terms of making it truly, I guess, integrate into your life as normally as possible? And myself have an iPhone, and so I thought naturally the next, I guess, evolution of this was a couple of things. Firstly, integration with Siri. So what we're going to do is run through how to integrate it with Siri, including how to set up a shortcut so that you can actually work with this by just literally as simply saying, hey Siri, and you can then begin to interact with this. So whether it's to update your calendar, send an email, I've expanded on this as well to also include some things that I feel are useful in a real person's life, like getting information in terms of upcoming builds. And again, built on this as well to basically provide me with a morning and an evening summary based on my upcoming events, expenses as well, just to kind of really go, what would actually make this useful for someone in real life, and kind of taking it to that next step from going from just a hypothetical that looks cool to something that actually genuinely makes a difference. So we'll run through each of the workflows because there are multiple workflows that I guess come together, as well as the data tables as well. So we'll run through step by step, and we'll go through, I guess, the first part in terms of the Telegram integration pretty quickly, just because there are a lot of similar models or similar workflows out there. I'll put a link to the video from Nate where he goes through this as well. But I'm sure a lot of people are probably pretty familiar with this sort of layout of workflow. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off just really quickly talking through the Telegram trigger. So again, everyone should be pretty familiar with how this works, but essentially what you can do is from Telegram, you can pull your workflow across, you can pull your Telegram across, and you can either trigger this to work through either a message or through a voice message. So whatever you can type, you can talk, whatever's easier for you. So again, at the moment we've just got this inactive and we want to trigger it from our Telegram trigger at the moment. So we'll just do execute from Telegram and we'll just put in a simple message. For example, so it's playing funny buggers with me, which credentials Telegram. So we'll just have a really quick look at that. It should be all fine. Yeah, I see what the problem is. We'll just change this one around really quickly. Apologies, give me one moment. Just using the wrong one. So we'll just execute that again and we shouldn't get that error anymore. So I might just send in a message, for example, saying, what events do I have on this weekend? And we can see it's working through now, activating and looking into our calendar to find our events. And hopefully it comes back with a response. Cool. So unfortunately I'm working tomorrow, guys. So big downer on that. That's all I've got in my calendar for the moment. What we'll jump onto next is just probably really quickly just talking through each of the nodes. So we've obviously got our switch one. So depending on the type of file that comes through, whether it's a text or it's a voice message, you're going to be able to route it down the relevant pathway. If it's a voice one, it's going to go into here, download your voice file, transcribe it using OpenAI or ChatGPT, and then it will go into our Telegram assistant, which will break down a little bit more in just a moment. So if it goes down the text route, basically it's going to take the text and just set the text to be called text so that it can be utilized by our Telegram assistant. So a couple things to note with our Telegram assistant, similarly to our SIRI assistant, which we'll go through shortly, is it's got a couple of things. So obviously we've got our chat model. I just use Open Router, and then in this case, GPT 4.1 mini is totally fine. And then I've got a simple memory here. So the reason why I have the simple memory is it obviously allows you to have more of a conversation and to remember past messages up to whatever you set it to. And then in here, we've got a couple of sub workflows that we'll run through that it's utilizing as a tool. And then it's just got the think tool as well. Within response as well, you can essentially just see all it's going to do is just output the output from our Telegram assistant and just basically respond with whatever's there. If we open up our Telegram assistant, we can have a look. When it comes to defining the user message, it's just going to be json.text, which is either going to be the output of our edit field or set node, and then or our transcribe audio, depending on which pathway it comes through. Within here, we've just got some pretty clear, I guess, examples of how we want this to operate. And again, the more specific you can be, the better. And just something to keep in mind for it is, I think it's just helpful giving it the current date and time of your location. And I think it's important as well to just make sure that whenever you're working with these, you double check the time zone that it's on. So obviously I'm in Australia and in Melbourne, but we're on the same time zone as Sydney. And if you have that not set to the right location, it's going to get a bit confused and give you the wrong dates and things like that. So next we're going to jump into the sub workflows, and I'm just going to work through each one of these, essentially workflow by workflow. So the first one we're going to go through is the email one. So as we can see here, we've got the when executed by another workflow. Essentially it's going to come through and it's got we've got, I guess, a separate email AI agent that is going to get our request or our question come through. And again, you can see we've got a specific sort of prompt or system message for this particular AI agent that's different to the one from our, I guess, main workflow. That one is really built around ensuring it knows based off the request which workflow to activate. And then within each of these workflows, it then will focus on a specific area. So you can see here, for example, this one is focusing on managing our emails. So everything from sending an email to replying, labeling, drafting, getting labels, marking as unread. And then essentially what we have here is then we'll pass through and whenever a workflow that is being used as a tool by an AI agent finishes, it will always pass back the output, and then it will then essentially use that output to make a decision or to provide a response to you, which it will then reply via Telegram. And so that's obviously just if it's going through the Telegram path. And the next one we've got is our calendar agent. So if we go to that one, we can see we've got a few things in here, obviously fairly standard in terms of all the, I guess, different actions that you would need a calendar agent to do. If you do need any help in terms of setting up your Google credentials, I do have a video. I did a bit of a credential masterclass that will cover your Telegram credentials as well as Google and a few other ones. So you can definitely check that out. And here you could probably make this a Google Sheet if you would really prefer, but I actually decided to go down the path of trying to, I guess, utilize the native data tables within N8N just to try and get the most out of them, and just to basically try and I guess reduce the number of API calls, which in theory should also speed up the process as well when it's working. And obviously the best thing for this is to be quick. We want to work with this in real time. So I will probably just really quickly call out a few things you need to set up in here. Really all you should need to set up in here is just your credentials. There shouldn't really be anything else. Everything else will essentially be more or less defined by this, I guess, expression here, which says from AI event ID. But that's essentially the same as just letting the AI model define all of that. So really the only thing that you're going to need to touch in here is just the get contacts. So if you're not familiar with setting up data tables, what I'll probably just really quickly do is just show you guys how that works. So just from your main page, you just want to come down to here where it says data tables, create a data table, give it a name. So we'll just go YouTube 1. And then you have the option to add rows or add columns. So in this instance, I'm not going to go through and remake it because I've already got the table. What I will do is just go back and go to contacts YouTube. And you can see that I've created a column for the name, a column for the email, a column for the phone, and then just like an ID note. So just something that you can do or another way to find that contact. Say in theory you had two people with the same name and you couldn't remember their email or their phone number. You could either use the ID note or you could also use just the ID if you remember the number associated with them. So in order to get that to connect, again, you just go plus to add a tool, and then you'll just search for N8N. Nope. So just data table, you will click that. And then just from within here, you just want to go from list, select the table or the table that you want to use. And then obviously the resource is going to be row, and then the operation is going to be get, because we want it to get all of the contacts that we have available, and then to go through those and then make a decision on which contact it is that we're trying to get. So the next one that we have after the calendar agent is the contact agent. So the contact agent, fairly similar to, I guess it's essentially like using a similar sort of thing in terms of the get contact. The reason why I thought it helpful to also have a get contact here is if you're wanting to say create an event with an attendee, it has the tool already available for it, so it knows straight away and it can find the person straight away, rather than having to potentially like come back to your main workflow, call on your another workflow in order to get that answer, go back to the calendar agent workflow, and so forth. So just in terms of, I guess, keeping it really basic and simple, and having to rely less on another workflow, you can just do it itself. But within our contact agent, again, we can see we've got a pretty basic system message for it, because it's not really doing anything aside from creating or getting our contacts. So again, we're just going to obviously have our Open Router and ChatGPT 4.1 mini for the brain. And then we're going to have two data table tools in here. So one being update contact. So essentially what I did was I just grabbed the table that I wanted to update, and then I just did map each column individually. And what I did was I just let AI define, or let the model define what goes in there. And then back in here, we do just have the get bills. So for this one, I just made up another table with which is essentially just a pretend data table of some bills and expenses, and just found that this was really helpful. Again, kind of coming back to that real use case for something that people may actually need in their life, whether it's personal or business. And what that will do is just basically, as per the table on here, it will grab the name of the bill, the date that it's going to be withdrawn from an account, the cost, and then also just, you can include here if you like the bank account. So again, that can help you in terms of planning, ensuring that you have sufficient funds in the right accounts, and you're not really caught off guard. So the next one that we have on here is pretty cool. It's something that I'm fairly new to in terms of understanding how this all works and playing around with it, but it's actually utilizing Siri via a webhook to basically give us another method or another mode to actually interact with this workflow. So for me, I spend a lot of time in the car with my work, and obviously I don't want to be going and grabbing my phone and, you know, opening up Telegram, trying to find the button to press to send a voice message, or to obviously be typing out, given that it's a pretty hefty fine in Australia, as I'm sure it is everywhere else, but also just from a safety perspective, creating, I guess, another really awesome use case when you're working with clients or working with yourself personally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through with you guys how to basically set this up. So essentially you're going to just create another trigger that is a webhook. And within here, you've got your production and your test URLs. So while you're testing, probably best just to go with the test URL. make sure that your method is set to post, and then you have respond using webhook. So within here, essentially all I'm doing is just setting the text that comes in from our SIRI request and calling it SIRI. And then it comes into our assistant here. So this is basically exactly the same in terms of the context or the system message that we had for the Telegram one. The only difference is the user message is coming from json.siri rather than in here we've got json.text. And then what it's going to do is have the same access to the same tools and resources as our Telegram assistant. And then rather than responding via Telegram, we're actually going to respond via a webhook, which is going to send that message back to our phone. And Siri will then read that out, or the I guess the custom agent or the shortcut that we're going to create will actually respond to that for us. So what we'll do next is just go through an example of what that looks like and how it sounds and how you interact with it. And then after that, we'll go through how to actually build that. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is just a really quick demonstration now of how this Siri one works, so that you guys can kind of see what that experience is like. So you can see I've got my phone down here, and I've got the webhook here, which is now going to be listening for a test event. And what I'm going to do is come over to my iPhone, and if I go to shortcuts, you can see I've got a couple here. We're actually going to play with this one here that I've set up. So in terms of actually how you set it up, on here on the shortcuts app, you just want to go plus, and then from here you just basically start entering in the different steps or the different commands that you're going to need. So the first one that you're going to want is dictate text. So if we come to here, we come to here and we go search actions, dictate text, you can click that. You can leave that completely as default. The next one after that is it's going to be get contents of, and then it's going to be speak. So we'll come back to here and we'll go get contents of URL. And then we'll go and just quickly add speak text. And what you can see here is it's starting to automatically put in, I guess, some options for us. So for this one here, we just want to press the little down button. We want to click on just where it says dictate text. We want to get rid of that. And what we actually want to add into here is our webhook. So we've got our test webhook that we can grab from N8N. I just sent it to myself on Telegram, as you guys can see here. And then you just want to copy it from there and paste it into your phone. So we also do from memory, we want to change our method from get to post, and then just change the request body or ensure that the request body is on JSON. So we'll click that, we'll go click that, click post, and then everything else you can actually leave as default. What you do want to just make sure you do though is have speak. If you need to change it to say contents of URL. So that test one just timed out, which is fine. So I'm just going to delete this because I've already set up another one for the sake of this video, or I'm just not going to use it. And we can come to here and we can see this is all good to go. So we can execute and wait for our input. And now we can try and use this and see how it goes. So can I please get a list of all of my contacts? And what we can see is it's now starting to work. It's come through and it's sent our request, which is said, so can I please get a list of all my contacts? It's now working. It's gone to the calendar agent and the email agent. So just with the shortcut on your iOS phone, just a couple more little settings that you want to make sure are set up first, and then we'll run through a live demonstration. So what you just want to do is just expand where it says get contents of. Make sure you come down to where it says request body. By default, it may not have anything. You just want to add a new field. You want to select text, and then for key, you can just put in input. Click the little tick down there. And then text, you just want to click that and then click the dictated text. So the reason why we need to do that is because that essentially will basically send through the structure of how our webhook works, so that our input here or our expression here is able to find something called json.body.input because it's coming as JSON. The body is called input, and then this is the contents of input per se. So that's what it's going to be looking for. So what we'll try and do now is just a quick test to see how it works. And hopefully we can get it working and go from there. So I'm just going to send a really basic request to start. Hey, what events do I have on tomorrow? So I forgot to click execute, so just keep that in mind. You just want to make sure you're connected to or executing from the correct trigger. So I'll click that, and now that it's waiting, I'll try again. Hey, what events do I have on tomorrow? You have an all-day event titled Working on Tomorrow. Is there anything else you would like to know or do? Cool. So unfortunately, I'm working all day tomorrow, but just sort of shows you there. And as I said before, if we open up the webhook here, what we can see under the essentially the body parameter here is input, and then we can say, hey, what events do I have on tomorrow? So if we open up our set text here, we can see that's what the message is recording or telling us. As we work through here, we can see that through the green lines that it's actually gone and looked at our calendar agent. And what I'll really quickly do in a moment is open up my calendar so that you guys can see what's on there. And then we'll do another quick demonstration using the SIRI as well, and actually add in an event for tomorrow as well. Cool. So you guys can see my calendar here. You can see tomorrow, all I've got in is working all day. What we'll try doing is basically working through the workflow using SIRI and get it to try and add a event for us tomorrow. So obviously, again, as before, we'll start off by executing from SIRI. And now that it's listening, we can give it a command or a request. So all you need to do is just hit the little play button down the bottom right while we're in this test mode. Hey, can you please create an event for tomorrow at 6 p.m. for John Doe's birthday? The event for Jono's birthday has been created for tomorrow, the 18th of October, 2025, at 6 p.m. Is there anything else you would like to do? Awesome. So I'm not too sure if you guys can hear the output because it was coming through my computer just with how I'm, screen sharing my iPhone. But what we can see in here is the event for Jono's birthday has been created for tomorrow, 18th of October at 2025 at 6 p.m. Is there anything else you'd like to do? And we can see down here that it's also added our calendar invite down here, which is awesome. So we can see that that's all working. And in terms of getting SIRI to connect and work so that you can activate it, there's a few more steps that we can just really quickly run through to show you guys how to get this to work. So to make your shortcut and then therefore your workflow run using SIRI, first thing you want to do is just come down to where it says the little I or the little information, and you want to make sure that you've added it to your home screen. So I've already done that, so it's good to go. And so what we can see on my home screen is I've got the speak text shortcut here, which is the one that we just made up before. So now we can activate it basically just by saying start speak text, and once we've activated SIRI. So again, apologies if you can't hear this, the audio is coming out of my computer, but I can assure you it's definitely speaking it back to me in case you can't hear it. Start speak text.
It doesn't look like you have an app named Speak.
Let's try that again. Activate speak text. What events do I have on tomorrow?
You have two events tomorrow, the 18th of October 2025. 1. Working all day event 2. Jono's birthday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. A celebration of
Cool. So now you can see that we can essentially activate that. And again, you can, depending on how you have Siri set up, you can potentially also have it activated by just saying, "Hey Siri." And for some phones, that will allow you to activate it. So if you just go to your Siri settings, you can change it to basically listen for "Hey Siri" or Siri and something along those lines. So definitely have a bit of a play around with that. It does sometimes take a little bit of troubleshooting. As you saw, it's not perfect in the sense that I asked for it to add a event for John Doe's birthday, but it said Jono, so maybe that was just more of my pronunciation. And so what we're going to do next is move on to the final part that I added to this, which is just essentially a daily summary component of it. So we've got a morning trigger and an evening trigger with an AI agent for each. The reason why I have a separate one is because essentially in the morning and then in the afternoon or the evening, I get a slightly different message. So when I wake up in the morning, it's really good to know or get a bit of a reminder of everything that I've got coming up. And for me, it's really important to sometimes just get a bit of a refresher. So for me, definitely not having to go to bed relying on my memory going, what have I got on tomorrow? Where do I need to be? What events do I have any expenses that I need to be prepared for? Is a really helpful function. So I've just set this up with a morning trigger. So you can see it runs once a day, 6 a.m. And what we have in here is essentially just something that's preloaded or information that's in there. So it doesn't really change. I just ask it to please provide a summary of all events happening and direct debit expenses happening for myself today and the rest of the week. And then again, just a system message. Seems like there's a lot in here, but it basically just breaks down the different things that I want. So I want a list of all my calendar events and then a list of all my expenses, and then just some really specific formatting in terms of how I want it to respond, including an example of exactly how I want it to send a message to me. So what we can do is just execute from this workflow here so you guys can see what that looks like. So every morning automatically at 6 a.m. I get a message like this come through, and it's obviously pulling from our calendar agent and from our bills data table that we've made up, and now it's sending us a message on Telegram. So just authorization failed, so apologies, I just had the wrong credentials set up there. So we'll let that run through again, and then with the evening one, you can see it's basically exactly the same, but there's just a little bit less information. So rather than a summary of essentially the entire week, it's focused on just the things that are specifically happening tomorrow. So we can see here, we've got a list of our events coming up for the rest of the week. So we've got working tomorrow and Jono, and then regarding expenses, there's no direct debited expenses due today or for the rest of the week. So the way that I have this specifically set up is it checks between the current day and the end of the week, so Sunday. So if I don't have anything due over the next couple of days, it won't necessarily flag anything for me. And then similarly as well with the evening message, we'll schedule a trigger from there. So you can see it's a little bit more concise. Obviously, because of the lack of events that I have on, there's not really much to show. But again, it gives you just a really quick snapshot of exactly what's happening tomorrow, and is a little bit less, I guess, specific. It's definitely really punchy and to the point. So yeah, I guess in terms of why I decided to put this together was, as I said back at the start, I think it's really just about creating a genuine use case for something that's helpful. We see a lot of really like flashy workflows that don't necessarily get to the root of exactly what people want and the things that add value to people's lives. And that's the purpose of this. And it's more focused on things that are practical and giving you the really critical information that you need. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It will be a little bit of a longer one. So for those that stuck around, thank you. As I mentioned before, I will have each of these workflows available for you to download. And if you do need help with any of the credentials involved in this, I do again have a video that I uploaded recently, a credentials masterclass video that will run through it all with you. If you do have any issues, particularly with the shortcuts, getting that set up, it can be a little bit finicky at times. Please feel free to reach out. And again, I did just want to shout out to Nate for inspiring this and giving me the base to work off and expand on. And definitely need to give credit to him as well. So again, give him a follow if you don't already follow. Check out his free school community. There's heaps of really awesome resources in there. And looking forward to, yes, hopefully getting something out soon. So if you guys in the meantime do need any help or do need anything, please feel free to reach out. All of my websites in the comments, as well as any comments that you guys leave, I'll do my best to respond to. Thanks.